Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling a topic that's near and dear to many of us, especially those with, well, tiny feline overlords ruling their households. That's right, we're talking all things kitten nutrition.
You hit the nail right on the head. Kitten nutrition. It's a world full of, well, a lot to unpack, to say the least.
Yeah, and you definitely sent me over a ton of info on this, so we're going to dive deep today, really sort through all this information about, well, feeding those adorable little bundles of energy, make sure everyone listening feels like confident about giving their kitten the absolute best possible start in life.
Absolutely. That's the goal here. So, where do we even begin? Oh, I know. We've got to start with the most basic yet often overlooked fact. Kittens. They're not just tiny cats when it comes to what they eat.
Okay, so you're saying there's more to it than just, like, smaller portions. I have to admit, I kind of just figured kittens were, like, mini versions of adult cats.
I get it. It seems logical, right? But think of it this way. Imagine you're building a house at super speed. You're going to need different materials, and a lot more of them compared to if you were building at a normal pace. Kittens, they're kind of in the same boat. Their growth, it's so rapid that their nutritional needs, way more intense, way more demanding than a full-grown cat.
So just to be clear, it's not just about how much they eat, but what they're eating. What they're eating has got to be different.
Bingo, you got it. And the biggest thing for kittens, top of the list, protein. And I mean a lot of it. We're talking 35 to 40% of their diet should be good, high-quality animal protein.
Whoa, okay. 35 to 40% protein, that's a lot. No skimping on the protein for these little guys. So protein's super important. What else? What else should people be on the lookout for when they're, trying to feed their kitten?
Yeah, so on top of all that muscle building going on, those tiny bones and teeth, they need attention too. That's where calcium and phosphorus step in. Essential for healthy bone development, can't skip them. And it's not just about getting enough of each. Got to make sure they're in the right balance.
Calcium and phosphorus, working hand in hand, the dynamic duo, making sure those kitten bones grow strong. Okay, cool. Anything else? Any other like VIP nutrients we should be on the lookout for?
Oh, absolutely. There's one more you can't forget. DHA. It's probably ringing a bell, right? It's that brain-boosting omega-3 fatty acid we always hear about, found in fish oil. Well, guess what? It's just as crucial for kittens, crucial for brain and vision development, especially when they're so little and their brains are like absorbing everything.
Brain food for growing kittens. Okay, I'm loving it. Protein, calcium, and phosphorus team. DHA for that brain power. Okay, so we've got like our nutritional all-star team. But how do we actually find all this good stuff when we're at the pet store, staring down that aisle? You know what I mean? The wall of kitten food. It can be so overwhelming. There are just so many brands and types.
Oh, tell me about it. It's a jungle out there. That's where knowing how to read, how to decode a kitten food label becomes your superpower. First thing you got to do is look for animal protein. Should be the very first ingredient. Chicken, fish, lamb, those are good signs.
So we're looking for specific stuff like chicken. But what about those, those more vague terms you sometimes see?
Yeah.
Like meat byproducts, is that a red flag?
Oh, huge red flag. Meat byproducts. It's like a mystery bag. Whatever is left over after they use the good stuff could be low quality and kittens might have trouble digesting it. Look for specifics like chicken meal or salmon, the real deal.
Got it. Be specific. No mystery meat. What else should people be looking out for on the ingredient list?
This might ruffle some feathers, but hear me out. Many experts, myself included, lean towards grain-free options for kittens. It comes down to how they're built, their biology. Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning their bodies are literally designed to thrive on meat. And while grains aren't necessarily bad, they don't provide the same nutritional value for your little carnivore.
So it's not the grains are the enemy. It's more about, like, choosing foods that are like aligned with their instincts, their natural like carnivore nature.
Exactly. You nailed it. And since we're talking about aligning with their needs, remember those essential nutrients, the protein, calcium, phosphorus, DHA. Make sure you see those clearly listed on that label.
Oh.
And also things like taurine. It's this amino acid that's super important for their heart health.
Okay, so we're like kitten food detectives now. We're checking for that quality protein. We're thinking about going grain-free, and we're scanning for those essential nutrients. But there's still one big question that always comes up. Kibble or wet food? Feels like everyone has a strong opinion about this one.
Oh yeah, it's a hot topic for sure. But here's the thing. Instead of choosing a side, how about we just give those kittens the best of both worlds?
I like where this is going. You're talking like a mixed diet. Yeah.
Kibble and wet food. They both bring something good to the table, you know? Combining them, it's a great way to give your kitten a well-rounded diet, something they'll actually enjoy eating.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But let's break it down a bit, for everyone listening. What are the big wins for Team Kibble?
Kibble, it's the king of convenience. You can just leave it out all day, no worries about it going bad, and your kitten can just graze whenever they feel like it. Plus, that crunchy texture acts like a little toothbrush, helps keep their teeth clean, prevents all those dental problems down the road, which nobody wants.
Okay, so Kibble's great for busy pet parents.
Yeah.
And it's basically built-in dental care. Not bad. But what about wet food? What's its superpower?
Think about it this way. Cats in the wild, they get most of their hydration from their food, not from drinking water. Wet food, it's got a lot more moisture than kibble, so it can be a real game changer for those kittens that aren't big on, hitting the water bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Staying hydrated is so important, especially when they're growing so fast.
Exactly. Plus, wet food tends to be a lot more appealing to those picky eaters out there. It's got all those delicious smells and textures that, well, a lot of kittens just can't resist. And because it's easier on their tummies, it's a good option if you've got a kitten with a sensitive stomach.
So, wet food, it's winning in the hydration department. It's tastier for picky eaters and easier to digest. Okay, I'm seeing the benefits of both now. I get it. But if you're doing a mixed diet, what's the right ratio? Is it a 50-50 split?
Most people think that, right? That it should be half and half. But it's actually a little different. The best balance is closer to 2/3 kibble and 1/3 wet food. That way they get all that good energy and dental benefits from the kibble and still all that hydration and other good stuff from the wet food.
2/3 kibble, 1/3 wet food. Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you've got your food situation all figured out. You bring your new little kitten home. Are you good to just switch them over to that new food right away?
That's actually one of the biggest mistakes people make. It's tempting. I get it. You're excited. You want to start them on their new food. But kittens, their tummies are pretty sensitive. Switching their food too fast, it can cause all kinds of problems like diarrhea. Maybe they won't even eat at all.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely don't want any of that. So slow and steady wins the race, I guess. What's the best way to ease them into a new food?
We usually recommend a 10-day plan. I know, it sounds like a long time, but trust me, it's worth it to avoid those tummy troubles. Start by just mixing a tiny bit of the new food in with their old food, like a teaspoon, maybe 2. Then slowly increase the amount of new food each day and decrease the old food over the next week and a half.
Okay, got it. So 10-day transition, slowly increase the new food. Easy enough, but I'm guessing there are some signs you should watch out for, just in case things aren't going well. How do you know if your kitten's not handling the new food?
Yeah, you got to be a little bit of a detective. Keep an eye out for any signs that something's not right. Are they having diarrhea, vomiting, not eating as much as they normally do? Even sudden changes in their behavior, that can be a clue that their tummy's upset.
Okay, so you see any of that stuff, what should you do?
Don't freak out, but definitely get in touch with your vet. Could be something simple. Maybe you just need to slow down the transition or try a different food. But sometimes those tummy issues, they could be a sign of something more serious. So it's always better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that vets, they're not just for emergencies or when your pet's sick. They're there to help with everything, like figuring out the best food for your kitten.
Totally agree. They're the experts, right? They can help you create a feeding plan, something customized for your kitten based on their needs. Super helpful if they have any health issues or if they're just super picky eaters.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of picky eaters, any tips for those kittens that just refuse to eat what's good for them?
Picky eaters, oh man, they can be a challenge. Sometimes it's as simple as finding a flavor or a texture that they like. Try offering different protein sources like chicken, salmon, maybe turkey. You can also experiment with different brands. Or even try warming up the food a little bit. Sometimes that makes it smell more appealing.
Okay, so patience and a little creativity, that's the key.
Exactly. And remember, kittens, they're famous for changing their minds. What they love one day might be the worst thing ever the next. Just got to go with the flow and keep offering them healthy choices.
So we've got the picky eaters covered. Now, I know there are all sorts of myths and misconceptions floating around about what you can and can't feed kittens. Any big ones you can debunk for us?
Oh, so many. One of the biggest ones is that cow's milk is good for kittens. We've all seen those cute pictures of kittens lapping up milk, right? But the truth is, cow's milk can really mess with their digestion. They can't digest lactose, that's the sugar in milk, so it can give them diarrhea and other tummy problems.
It's so true. Something that seems cute or harmless to us might not be good for them at all.
Exactly. And another one that trips people up, a little bit of human food won't hurt. Yeah, some human foods are okay for kittens, but a lot of them can actually be dangerous.
Like what? What are some of the foods we should never give them?
Things like onions, garlic, grapes, raisins, chocolate, that kind of stuff, all super toxic to cats, can cause serious problems, even just a little bit. And even foods that aren't like poisonous, they might not have the right nutrients for a kitten.
So best to just avoid human food altogether? Stick to kitten food.
That's the safest bet. Make sure they're getting what they need. Plus, if you start feeding them table scraps, they might start begging for food all the time, which, can be a little annoying.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so no cow's milk, no human food. Any other common myths you hear a lot?
A lot of people just assume that all kitten food is the same. But there's actually a huge difference in the quality and the nutrition you get from different brands.
Well, that's interesting. So even if 2 bags of kitten food look similar, they might not be the same on the inside. How can you tell if you're getting a good quality food?
That's where you got to do a little detective work. Don't just look at the front of the bag, really check that ingredient list. Look for foods that list like a real animal protein as the first ingredient, and make sure the labeling is clear and easy to understand.
So do your research, compare different brands, be an informed consumer.
Exactly. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to compare different brands. Find a food that works for your kitten and, your budget.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Learned that kittens, they're not just mini adult cats. Their nutritional needs are totally different.
Yeah.
We've talked about the most important nutrients, how to read those ingredient lists, busted some common myths. But before we finish up this deep dive, I want to go back to something we've talked about a few times, working with your vet.
Yes, so important, because even with everything we've talked about today, nothing beats getting personalized advice from your vet.
Right. They can help you figure out anything specific you're worried about, especially if your kitten's got any health issues or they're just really, really picky.
Absolutely. Your vet is the go-to person for all things kitten health. And that includes their diet. Don't hesitate to ask them any questions you have.
Okay, that's great advice. And with that, I think we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive into kitten nutrition. All right, welcome back, everyone, for the final part of our kitten nutrition deep dive. This has been honestly super helpful. I feel like I'm finally getting a handle on this whole kitten feeding thing.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And, like we've been saying, the more you know, the better equipped you are to raise a healthy, happy kitten.
Totally. Okay, so before we wrap things up completely, I have one more question. We've spent all this time talking about kittens, but what about adult cats? Do their nutritional needs change as they, grow up?
You're totally right to ask that. Just like us, cats go through different life stages, and each stage comes with its own nutritional, needs and demands.
So it's not as simple as just switching from kitten food to adult food at some point. There's more to consider.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it like this. A kitten, they're like an athlete in training, right? They need a diet that's going to fuel all that growing and developing. But once they're adults, their metabolism, it kind of chills out. Their energy needs change. And their bodies might need different amounts of certain nutrients.
Makes sense. So when do you know it's time to make the switch from kitten food to adult food?
Usually a good rule of thumb is to start transitioning them to adult food when they hit about 80% of their expected adult weight. Your vet can help you figure out the right time, based on their breed and how they're growing.
Okay, so 80% of their adult weight. Got it. But even then, it's still important to switch them over gradually, right? No sudden changes.
Right. We always want to avoid those sudden food swaps because, it can upset their stomach.
Yeah.
Remember that 10-day plan we talked about? Same deal here.
Slow and steady wins the race. Always. Okay, so what about senior cats? Do they need something different from adult cats?
Another great question. And the answer is yes. Again, as cats get older, they tend to slow down, become a little less active, their metabolism dips even further, and they might have, some age-related health stuff that needs a special diet.
So basically, you can't just feed a cat the same thing their whole life. You have to adjust things as they go through different stages.
You got it. You got to pay attention to those changes, make adjustments as you go. And don't forget, your vet, they're your partner in all of this. They can track your cat's weight, how they're looking, their overall health, and give you advice on their diet if they need any changes.
This has been seriously eye-opening. I feel so much more prepared to give my kitten and all my future cats the best food possible, throughout their whole lives.
That's what we like to hear. Remember, knowledge is power, right? Stay informed, work with your vet, and you can help your kitty thrive no matter their age.
Well said. So to everyone listening, as you start this amazing journey of raising a kitten, remember that good nutrition is the foundation. It's the key to a long, healthy, happy life for your furry little friend. Don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, talk to your vet, and give your kitten the best possible start in life.
And enjoy every minute with your cat. All those purrs and head boops. Those are the best rewards for all your hard work.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of kitten nutrition. We'll see you next time.